Hey everybody, welcome back to the garden. So I'm going to finally plant these out. It's May 2nd, 3rd, something like that. It's the weekend after the long weekend here in Canada, Ontario, Canada. So it's been about a good 2 weeks since we had our last frost, which is really rare for here. Last frost date typically is June 1st, so that's the safe planting date for this zone, which is 4B. So I took a chance by planting stuff, even the hardier vegetables like the tomatoes, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, and the other stuff like the peas and beets and things like that I planted at least 3 weeks ago. And this is at least a month early. So we typically, in 4B, our last frost date would be the last day of May, potentially. So a bonus, but we did have cold weather up until fairly recently. So cold, but not quite frost. And this is the first really hot spell, which again is early, and it's hotter than normal, so I can get these things in. A lot of these plants, seedlings, we started like a month or two ago, but we have limited space to start seedlings in and not great light, so they didn't do nearly what they would have done if we had a greenhouse or a south-facing big window or something that we could have put them in. So I've got various results here. I've got some more pots I need to bring too, so they have some bigger plants in that we transplanted 2 bigger pots with richer soil, and those ones did better. But limited space, limited light, this is the result. So these peppers here would have been nice if they were up like that. I've got a couple like that, but most of them are low. My sauce tomatoes, which I'm growing San Marzano this year, I got one batch of seedlings somewhere. Not sure which ones they are. Maybe I have them in a pot. Yeah. And they're up pretty good, but the stuff I planted in this subsoil that I dug up from here, the seedlings that I planted from seed, they just basically came up and essentially stopped with no nutrients in the soil, I guess. So we're gonna have a variety of different qualities of plants that I'm putting into the garden. These fish heads and fish remains that I put in all the holes for the peppers and the tomatoes, hopefully that makes a big difference. And I've got sort of some test areas, so I've got some with fish heads and some without. So we'll see how they perform over the next few months, how much differently they perform. So I'm going to get these in. The reason I'm really focusing on today to get them finished or get them planted is that we have a week of chance of rain at least, which we've had too much dry so far for spring, so the rain will be welcome. Got some pretty good rain coming in, like an inch of rain today apparently, and hits of a thunderstorm, which would be good for fixing the nitrogen and getting a lot of water into the ground. So that's what I'm going to do, get all these planted out, start working back on the hugelkultur mounds around the perimeter, get as much compost and mulch on top of those things because they're drying out really fast. So that's what I'm going to do probably once it starts raining, is start collecting leaves from the forest again and really piling that on all of the garden beds to keep that moisture in. So all this rain that falls, I want to be able to preserve as much of that as possible. So a lot of the stuff I'm planting this year actually came from you guys, from subscribers, including some of the seed trays. I think last year most of them were sent to me, and a bit this year, including, and again I'm horrible at keeping track of everything, who sent me everything, but last fall I think it was, somebody sent me 4 different types of garlic, which I didn't get in the ground. I thought I had planted them, but I think I planted some garlic seeds in the ground in that small garden beside the cabin last year. So I had all of those garlic cloves that I just stumbled upon as I was pulling out all the seedling stuff. So I just got them in the garden last week, and they're coming up already. Not great harvest or planting garlic in the spring, but I'll still get a harvest out of them. Might not be quite as mature, and then quite a few of them I'll probably just leave in the ground and let them come back up again next year. They'll keep spreading when you do that. So we'll see, but I've planted those down the center of each of the tomato and pepper beds, which will also help repel some of the pests that like to attack tomatoes and peppers and potatoes. So we'll see how it turns out. But like I said, I'm going to need a lot of mulch on top of this, not only to keep the moisture in, but to keep the smell down so that I don't get bears or even I saw some vultures starting to do a circle around because they're smelling the fish remains. Raccoons are going to be maybe an issue, maybe even mink or otter. So I'll get it covered as much as possible, see if I can suppress the odor.